Thank you and good morning, Foothills County. Welcome to the Ag Service Board meeting for Thursday, February the 13th. First up, I'd look for approval of the agenda for today. Any changes or additions to the agenda? Don't see anything. Anybody give me a motion to approve? Mr. Anderson gives us that motion to approve the agenda. All in favor? Motion carries. Minutes. We have two sets of minutes for today. First off was November 28th. I trust you all had a chance to look at the minutes. Anybody ready to give me a motion to approve the minutes? Councillor Alger gives us that. All in favor? Motion carries. Second set of minutes is December 20th, 2024. Anybody ready to give me a motion to approve those minutes? Mr. Rowland gives us that. All in favor? Motion carries. Monthly activity reports for November and December and January 2024 and 25. Mr. Cornelson, are you going to give us some highlights, or Ms. Webb?
I can do that. There's our monthly activity reports. He's going to talk about it later, but we are replacing unit 795 and unit 635 potentially. And we have one summer or seasonal staff that was done at the end of December. If there's any questions on that? 795. 635.
So you're getting new ones and then most auction.
So the idea is that those two new trucks would replace 795 and actually 703, and then the 635 would replace 703. It's a bit convoluted, but 703 is like the older Dodge half ton, and then so we would just demote 635 to replace 703.
Okay. Any other highlights or questions from the board? Very talkative bunch this morning to start off with. Okay, I guess I'd just look for a motion and to accept the monthly activity reports. Mr. Nelson gives us that. All in favor? Motion carries. ASB operations update, page 17 of our agenda. And this even talks about those two units a little bit, I guess. So
no, I'll kind of get into that a little bit now and give you kind of a full. I'm running off of two sheets here. Maybe I'm just start off too. Like I had, I know there was some question with, and it's coming up later with the, with Bill C-273, I think. Anyway, so I had originally, just in reference to the minutes there for the second ASB meeting on December 20th, I had sent an email out to Arlene Beggs, because I was a bit confused with the prorogation of government, what would happen with that bill. And I thought, there was some discussion over that anyway. So I just wanted to read the email. So this is my question. This is my question to Arlene Beggs or Scott Tannis's assistant. With the federal government proroguing Parliament, does that mean Bill C-293, an act respecting pandemic prevention preparedness, is now pushed back to the House of Commons to start again with a first reading there? And so she gets back to me regarding your question regarding Bill C-293. Yes, it would be pushed back to the House of Commons to start again at first reading. However, there is a mechanism where the bill can be brought back to its prior stage after prorogation. It could be brought back to Senate, but it would then start at first reading in the Senate. If an election is called, it would have to start anew in the House of Commons. So that's just a bit of clarification with that. I wasn't sure was unclear of what happened with that bill, but that's kind of where it's at. So it's kind of been, as far as what she thinks, it's been pushed back to Parliament. So that's good for us, right? That's good because we didn't like that bill. So a little bit more about the grant. So the ASB grant, we sent that forward, and I've been in discussion with the provincial government with the grant, and they are going to get back to me in April about the resource management, which is the competition. So that's where I had asked for a certain amount of funding to kind of go along with our rural conservation advisor position. And so in April, they get back to us on that, how much funding we get back from that grant. The legislative funding, the report is done, and that's guaranteed funding. So I think that's going to come out a little bit sooner than the resource funding, because that's just they're going to go over they've gone over it already, but they're going to go over all those applications and then make us make changes to them if they think so. So anyway, we should know about that in March sometime, and then April with the resource funding. Staffing, I've had a bit of an issue with staffing. We had one of our full-time staff go on short-term disability. And so we're kind of looking at replacing him in the meantime. It sounds like now he's going to be off for at least 3 months. Getting his, it's not something that is work related. So we are still receiving resumes for the rural conservation advisor position. So we're going to be interviewing for this position on February 20th. And also with the lead hand, we're going to be interviewing for the lead hand on that day as well. So after February 20, we should know more about what's going on with those positions. So yesterday in council, we got the go ahead to buy 2 flat deck trucks, and as talked about just a little bit earlier, they're going to essentially replace unit 795 and unit 703. And so they're flat deck trucks, which we will be purchasing from High River GMC. Came in at the best price of the 6 dealerships I looked at. So as far as equipment goes too, we are continuing to have DEF issues in our tractors, whether it's sensors going or other things. It does seem like there's some issue with us not, like the units are not burning. I don't know. I'm getting all sorts of things. I don't know if it's really like an issue with our operators or it's an issue with the DEF system. I'm not exactly sure. So I'm just trying to get to the bottom of that. So part of what I wanted to talk about here is this is my own personal stick, whether whether we could, it being at the last Ag Service Board meeting, whether that would be something that we would be interested in, maybe coming forward with some kind of resolution at the Ag Service Board meeting, provincial conference, about something with DEF and agriculture, and how if we could somehow get that changed somehow, where there was a mechanism for agriculture to delete DEF on certain equipment if it wasn't, I don't know. I would like, I was sort of thinking about exploring that a little bit more, because I'm not really sure how to move ahead with that issue with our tractors. Yeah, and so anyway, just getting on with the report. I mean, I kind of highlight here what we all did this last summer. Field surveyed and grasshoppers and spraying. Like I say, it's along the lines of that, we, some of our work is being delayed because of, breakdowns of the tractor with the DEF issues. So that's maybe why I consider that maybe one of the bigger issues that we're having. And yeah, so along with that, workshops and meetings, I'm looking forward to having that new position filled so that we can be holding more workshops, and I can kind of give that over to the new position. Recently, I spoke at a vertebrate pest workshop in High River that was attended about 100 people. So it was put on by the Foothills Forage and Grazing Association. And so it was just an interesting way to get to meet people. I think maybe the biggest thing I took away from that was I also, I met a lot of people who are doing I guess my counterparts with Okotoks and Black Diamond in Calgary. So, after meeting them, seeing them face to face, it'll be maybe a little bit easier to work on some weed issues or issues that maybe cross boundaries. And yeah, I don't know. I had a good time at the ASB conference with the group that came along. It was kind of neat to go through that whole process with resolutions and just going to a conference and getting to know you guys better. It was also neat to connect with the St. Paul guys, the St. Paul counselors who I'd worked with for several years. But don't worry, you guys are a lot better than them. So still happy I moved to Foothills. Very happy. Yeah, so other than that, I think that's all I have to report. I mean, I'll be talking about some other points, but right now that's all I have to say. Any questions? I guess also just another quick thing with the ASB farm. I am still working on getting quotes for a building there. And I know in the last meeting we talked about a 20 by 20 building, but as I've been talking to some of the contractors, they feel that I should make that a little bigger. They kind of convinced me to make it like a 20 by 30, like a regular size garage sort of. And so I thought about that. Yeah, it's probably nice to have a little bit extra room and maybe just I can park a truck in there or something. So that's so I'm now looking at a 20 by 30 shed. So I don't know, just to make it a little more universal and it won't look as funny, I guess. But yeah, still waiting. I have 3 builders that I'm in contact with, and they are all busily working on a quote for me now, I'm sure. So, but they're going to get that to me soon. And I have quotes on openers for the doors in the main shed there. So if we've got 5 doors, and I'm still asking a few questions about the comparisons, but the cheapest quote is coming in at about $12,000 to put in overhead door openers in the building. So. Yeah, between in the range from 12,000 to 25,000. So I'm just trying to make sure that they're apples to apples here. They're not different motors. So I'm just getting to the bottom of that, and then I will be maybe sending you guys an email about that or something. But yeah, so that's kind of where we're at. Looking at hiring our seasonal staff or putting that information out soon. We have 3 seasonal staff that positions we'll be filling. We've got 1 returning and 2 to fill. So yeah, that's all I got for my report.
Okay, thank you for that. I guess we just look for questions from the board. If I maybe just started off the DEF question. These are fairly new tractors too, right? They're not when DEF first came out and.
Yeah, so that's true. So like some of them, the one that's currently at Vanny right now that's a first generation. I think that's a 2015 New Holland. But yeah, we were having issues. I think the main ones were like 2018, 2017 John Deere's, and so that's fairly advanced already. And I'm not sure, Bree, do you know if the newest one has had issues yet? The T6 140?
No,
Not sure. Anyway, yeah, but
no, it hasn't.
but like we're having trouble with like first generation stuff, and then after that as well. Yeah.
And since we have our Director of Public Works here, Mr. Taylor, welcome here this morning. Your experience with DEF, because it's on all the trucks and everything now by TR, is it not?
That is correct, yes.
And are you having troubles with the systems there too?
Yes, most of them, in fact, are issues doing with the exposed airs and not, if they're not used regularly, if they're not maintenance regularly, I mean, more advanced than most of these systems now, they get a lot of problems with the fuel injectors and the components. oftentimes when that refuses or reduces the DEF flow, and it goes to possible system failure. So this is a very common problem that has been throughout the generations of this piece of equipment. Although it is advanced, there are several problems that have plagued pretty much all of the DEF equipment, unfortunately.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Nelson.
Is it worth, we kind of went through this last year, I think, didn't we? About talking about doing a deletion on some of these tractors, and that was, I think the answer was that we couldn't because of Alberta provincial regulations. Is it worth talking to our MLA or MLAs plural about trying to find some sort of an exemption or an allowance to let us delete these tractors? Is that a possibility?
Go ahead, Mr. Riva Cameron.
Just shout. So there we have it. Council had a long discussion about possible deletions, and so it's a federal regulation actually that Alberta doesn't really enforce, but then who knows what the feds would do, especially if a municipality were to do deletions. That is kind of the issue, and whether council members or ASB members would be personally liable for any fines or that we sought a legal opinion on it. So it becomes kind of dicey for council to allow the ignorance of a federal regulation. I think what Keith was mentioning earlier was the idea of perhaps going forward with resolutions to either ASB or eventually RMA with respect to this issue. It is a pain. There's no doubt about it. Seems to be more of a problem with the tractors and some of the smaller trucks. Like we had some Ford 750s, and they were definitely having DEF problems. We just got rid of one, so we're happy with that. And the cost is terrible on these. Like we had to replace, or we were going to replace on the one truck we got rid of, the filters and that, and it was $14,000. So you know, it is an issue that's not working. It's a California-based regulation, and it just doesn't help up here, up here, maybe anywhere. I don't know what it's like when you're in warm climates. Maybe it works better, but seems pickup trucks, you know, the smaller units, 3/4 tons, 1 tons, it's not as big a deal. And I think as Director Taylor mentioned, if you're using them all the time and you're changing the filters, you're do more than the regular maintenance on them, it helps, I'm told. So, but eliminating them would be the easiest thing or the best thing. It's not expensive, but if you have warranty, you can't do it. And so there, you know, there's all kinds of issues there. I think the other mentioned by Manager Kernelson was the number of tractors we have, and so we may be able to reduce the number tractors that we have, and it may be that these older sort of first edition tractors need to be replaced with the new ones that we understand are not creating as much of a DEF problem as those ones that came along. What are the tractors? 2018, 2015. So you know, we probably need to look at what it would cost to move forward and We didn't budget for it this year, but it's something that needs to be looked at for the future, updating these units. And if we can reduce the number of tractors that we have, that may help.
Go ahead, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you. One main way to essentially, as Manager Reva Cameron has said, is looking at updating the older models, because the first generation obviously are ones that are more plagued than the current ones. The most important factor in looking at the current inventory that we have and looking to purchase is to ensure that we have a very robust maintenance program and that we're following the manufacturer's recommendations at the time. There is specific information relaying on storage of the machines, what the ideal weather and temperature for that storage is in order to make sure that these systems are operating at peak performance. So in reviewing this, I think one of the steps would be reviewing what the maintenance program is, what the manufacturer warranty errors or manufacturer recommendation for care of these machines, and ensuring that we have that in place. Without that, a rigorous maintenance schedule that's laid out for these pieces of equipment, they oftentimes develop more problems. As you said, injectors, clogs, filters go on, and even the lines and stuff, which is what the concern mostly for the storage temperatures are. So that would be one thing that I would look at to ensure we put into place.
Okay, so if we were to look at a resolution, that would be for Environment and Climate Change Canada would be the ministry, or who's responsible for?
I guess that would be like one of the things, in the process we would find out. I'm not sure who. I would assume it would be that department in the federal government.
Okay. So just looking to the board, is this something we want to pursue a little bit? Go ahead, Councillor Alger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Cornelison, are we getting any sort of information from our local dealerships, like where we're buying these tractors? Like, this is not just a Foothills County problem. This is Canada-wide, North America-wide. In the cold climate seems to be where most of the issues are. But like, are the dealerships just standing there and selling tractors and going, yeah, well?
Well, I guess I could start off in saying that, the support has been excellent. Like they come and fix the issue. But it seems like more like a temporary fix. So I've been in contact with Vanny quite a bit about that, and they're giving suggestions. Are we running the tractor at high RPMs? And so we're running about 2,000 RPMs, and there's some idle time in the morning,
Yep.
and at break and stuff, and so. It's almost like the suggestion is to keep the RPMs at 2,000 like throughout the day, maybe. That might help, and that some getting into which is kind of it doesn't really essentially make sense. So I'm hoping that, like even what David was saying about just getting them on like maybe that would help, like on a regular maintenance schedule. That might help, but. I think it might be a deeper issue. I don't know, maybe it just is like it's not perfected yet when they put these tractors out. I think that might be the actual problem. Yeah, so, but I don't know. But they are, like I say, very helpful, and they fix the issue, but then it seems like it's a reoccurring thing that happens.
Yeah. No, it just seems to me that these guys should be like helping out on the federal side, and like they should be complaining as much as the counties are complaining.
Well, yeah, maybe you see there would definitely be an ally there, in this,
Yeah.
and I don't know how quick they would be to give out information on the issues that they see, but,
They probably like it for the service.
yeah,
The service guy's busy.
I wonder, maybe they'd rather be working on other things.
Councillor McHugh.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chair. it's a fine line. As long as the equipment's on the tractor, you're okay. You know, we should just delete it and be done with it. But basically, we need a change in the federal government and somebody that can do math. You know, if you look at the emissions that are done creating DEF, and I guess that's just because it's nitrogen oxide that's allowable, and carbon dioxide isn't. So, you know, I think we should just look into the math equation on the emissions that are actually created by DEF and the difference in carbon dioxide, and wait till we have a different government. And if we don't get a different government, we're stuck with it. Otherwise, we're just beating our head against the wall. That's all I got.
Okay, and hopefully we'll have a different federal government before our next ASB resolution session. So do we want to look at doing a resolution and getting that happening before next January? I'm seeing a few head shakes. Okay, so we'll work on putting something together to bring forward to the next ASB along that lines and see where we end up. Okay. Further questions or comments on the rest of what is in the Ag Services report? Go ahead, Mr. Rowland.
You might think this is kind of goofy, but for your smaller trucks, you could look at gas trucks. They don't have DEF. We switched all to gas on the farm, and I'm pretty happy with them. Gas is cheaper than diesel anyway. And we've gone all back to pre-2010 tractors, and we just rebuild them. A brand new motor and an old tractor is a brand new tractor, basically. You know, I don't suggest the county's going to want to do that, but certainly the pickup trucks, I would look at gas.
Thanks. And I believe all our pickups are gas. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, I think even, are any of our trucks diesel? Are any of the trucks diesel? I don't think so. I think they're all gas. Like even the 1 tons are all. Yeah, yeah, no,
Okay.
maybe 7. Yeah, I think like currently we've been switching over, I think, to gas. So right now they're all, yeah.
Okay. Nothing else on all these other items in the Ag Services report from Mr. Cornelson? The grant, staffing, workshops. Okay, I would just look for a motion then to accept the manager's report from as presented. Mr. Stump gives us that. Okay, all in favor? Motion carries. Insect survey results. So been out there and counting bugs. So walk us through what you found.
Yeah, so there's, you know, I'm not sure how the best to go forward with this, but there is, if you're interested, the 2024 insect survey results. So the county of St. Paul was directly involved with one of them. We did the grasshopper surveys. And so we would go around and we were, I'm trying to remember how many fields, I think it even says in my report how many fields we checked for grasshoppers. But so what the province does is they take these and they put them online. So they put all these information online. There's like cabbage seed pod weevil, pea seed pod weevil, wheat stem sawfly. Trying to remember what else. A Bertha armyworm, diamondback. Maybe that's all of them. And so whatever they'll go around looking for these things, and then they accumulate, you know, the numbers in different areas, and then you can kind of look at the maps. To me, the best way to look at these insect survey results is to go online and you look at the map, and they kind of give you, you know, green, yellow, orange, red, you know, whether it's something that you should look after. So yeah, it's just maybe a note to look at them there. to look at the forecast results, because they do a lot of surveying, and you know, I think there are some, you know, some areas of concern in the province, and almost like those farmers should be like, well, you know, if you're out looking for insects, maybe spend a little more extra time looking for a certain insect than the other. But yeah, I just encourage you to you know, go to Google Alberta insect surveys 2024, and you can come up with all the maps from this last year to kind of tell you what we should be looking out for this year. And I don't think there was actually any, if I'm remembering, I had printed off the maps, but I neglected to bring them. I don't think there was any big glaring points for Foothills County, but you know, nothing that, you know, it was no, you know, big reds, no big numbers. It was all kind of unconcerned. And a lot of that has to do with weather, I think, with, you know, when if things are lush and growing, there's lots of moisture, that's kind of often when you see more issues. So, you know, with the dry weather, I guess there is some good things with drier weather. But yeah, that's all. I really have any questions about that, or?
Questions from the board? Go ahead, Mr. Rowland.
When you do come across red flag, how do you get it out to the farmers? You know, that, hey, we ought to be looking at something. There's obviously no red flags here, but there will be in the future.
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. How should we get that information out? I'm not sure what the best way is, but I mean, to as far as that goes, like education, you know, we could put it on our website, talk to farmers about it, you know, and hopefully they get to know that there is such a thing, first of all, that people are looking at these things, and that there is a place they can go to look for them. I guess that would be the biggest thing, right? So as a, you know, as a producer, like when you're thinking about certain issues, you know, do you go there and do you look, or is the person who's, you know, maybe scouting your field know about them? So yeah, that would be, to me, be the biggest thing. How do you get that information out there? I'd be, well, website, social media, I'm not sure. And, you know, just in one-to-one conversations, and even at workshops that we'll be having, just to mention that information.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I hadn't thought about it until this very second, but certainly farmers aggregate at certain places like elevators and seed plants and whatnot. Just a little 8x10 poster might be a useful way to do that.
Yeah, certainly good to get the word out. Just reminded of a few years ago, we had the black grass bug show up in Foothills County. Turned out to be not a widespread thing and nothing to be concerned about that way, but it was good to get word out. I think it went out on social media a little bit here and there. So, yeah. Any other questions on the insect survey results?
Mr.
Nothing?
Chair,
Okay.
if I may.
Oh, go ahead, Councillor McHugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to follow up on Mr. Rowland's suggestion, I really like that thought of posting something at the seed cleaning plant in Blackie. That would be a great communication. I'm pretty sure this will fall on the new employees category, but specifically for myself, the one that I would be looking for yellow flags on would be flea beetles and pea weevils. And so if there was any change in that, in those two categories, I think that's definitely worth starting to get the information out. The flea beetles 2 years ago were just right out of control and lasted all year. And we haven't seen pea weevils for a while, but and I don't know, our old resource conservation officer, I believe, was doing the bug counts. So I think that'll fall on his plate, but I really like that suggestion from Mr. Rowland, that something like that comes up, relaying that information to the seed cleaning plant, then that would spread like wildfire. Thanks very much.
Okay. Good information. I'd look for a motion to acknowledge the insect survey results for 2024. Mr. Stumpf gives us that. Any final questions, comments? All in favor? Motion carries. Capital equipment purchase, 2 one-ton trucks. You've already mentioned this a little bit. I'm assuming we can go pretty quick.
Yeah, no, this is just I included it in the package. So if you guys want to take a look at that, you can, but yeah, nothing new to report on that besides what that we are purchasing 2 new one-ton trucks.
And council approved yesterday the purchase of these, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Councilor Alger.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Cornelson, you mentioned yesterday that one of the reasonings was this was kind of a pre-tariff thing. Like, is this, like, are these trucks on the water? They're ordered, or we can beat this tariff thing by getting the order in before?
So like I've heard different things from different salesmen, but yeah, I guess they all say the sooner the better. Just when I was going to order the truck yesterday, there was like it was coming up like it was $3,000 more than the quote was, and so I don't know what that was from, but I mean there is a definite increase maybe coming, but anyway, so he worked through that and we missed that increase. So
these prices from High River Shed or Cheb are locked in, and
yeah, like yesterday when I was there, he had to work through that issue, and then now I'm planning after this meeting to go there and like sign the paper. So I guess I'll know exactly after today. But he said he worked it out. So yeah.
And same for the decks. Have we ordered the decks that are going to have to go on these trucks?
Pardon?
Have we ordered the decks that are going to have to go on these trucks?
I haven't yet. No, I haven't ordered those yet.
Sure, those will go up also.
Yeah, so that's my next play is to get some quotes on those decks.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Okay, anything else on the trucks? Councilor McHugh, go ahead. Sometimes you just gotta jump in because I don't always see you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through the chair to the Ag Fieldman. Just to follow up on Councilor Elder's questions on decks. Is there anything specifically that we're looking for in functionality? Are we going for just straight flat decks, or do we need something that tilts and dumps? Or are we going to have sides? Or I guess just a little comment on what we're thinking for decks on these trucks and what the purpose for the decks will be. Thanks.
Through the chair to council, to ASB. So the trucks, the one truck is a tilt, like it has a dump on it, which we use for wood chips. So that'll be maybe the biggest thing there that we'll be using the add on, let's say. But as far as that goes, the other two would just be standard flat decks, and I think they'll all have sides that flip up on them to keep stuff in the. I don't know how high that'll be, but they'll have those things on there. So yeah, those will be. I think really, other than that, the one is standard and the one is a hoist.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you. Can we keep the decks that are on the trucks currently? If you're buying cab and chassis, can you just keep that deck?
I'm going to definitely so through the chair to ASB, I'm going to definitely look at that, yeah, to see if we can maybe transfer them over. Yeah, there might be a possibility. It's a different truck, but yeah, I'll see.
Okay. Okay, so council did make the decision yesterday to go ahead and purchase these. So I guess just to get this on the books, just a motion to acknowledge the conversation around the 2 one-ton trucks. Councilor Alger gives us that. All in favor? Motion carries. Wild boar bylaw. So one of our last meetings, we had this discussion. Wasn't long after that Mr. Nelson had seen in the paper and shared a little bit that they had some wild boar, I believe it was crosses in Willow Creek, just to the south of us. So that was in the Calgary Herald in December, I believe it was. So Mr. Nelson or Core Nelson, you've put together a bit of options here to look at in terms of the wild boar bylaw. Can you just walk us through what you got? Or?
Sure. So they're pretty. I think they're pretty standard. Like they all kind of list, the scientific name of the animal there. I think it's kind of a neat idea to set up the bylaw in such a fashion that you could add another animal to it at a later date if necessary. So then, so the bylaws are pretty straightforward that way. It lists the animal. If it's found, the landowner has to get rid of it at their expense. And if they don't do that, then there is a fine involved. And yeah, so that's pretty standard. There's currently 22 counties that have bylaws for wild boars or wild boar farms in the province. And the question has come up, why doesn't the province just step in and say no more wild boar farms? And the answer I got from the provincial ag service board or the agriculture Alberta employees has been that they're keeping track of these things, and they say eventually as more and more counties develop these bylaws that the province might step in and just do a provincial bylaw or rule on this to outlaw or just make sure that wild boar farms aren't expanding in our province, because that's one of the issues. So yeah, I guess if you've had a chance to take a look at those, maybe just to direct, looking for direction, just to direct whether we want one, to bring forward to the next Ag Service Board meeting a bylaw that you guys could take a look at.
And so currently, wild boar are regulated under the Pest Act, correct?
That's right.
So without a bylaw, if somebody has wild boar, is there anything the county can do?
So currently, if somebody, say, wants to start a farm, they would have to start the farm, and there's regulations for fencing, I guess, is the biggest thing that they would have to follow. Part of the issue is often, when it's found out that there's a wild boar farm and, they set it up, then you have to work with them over. It's just hard for them to set up this fencing. It's very expensive. And so typically the wild boar farms that I've worked with, the fencing is never up to standard. And then you're always kind of fighting the producer in this case to get those fences up to standard. And it's just hard to do it. And so several counties have just taken that step, instead of having to deal, they know the wild boar is a pest. It's a regulated pest in Alberta, just to avoid the situation completely, rather than spending time and effort inspecting and writing reports, everything. You just outlaw them completely, because essentially we don't want wild boars to have to start a stranglehold in our county. We just want to avoid them as much as possible. So the bylaws just strengthen that ability to do that.
Councillor Alger, go ahead.
Seen a few YouTube videos on wild boars. Nasty. So Mr. Cornelson, MD of Spirit River has a prohibited animals bylaw, and then Karsten is specifically for wild boar. So you're suggesting that we have a prohibited animal bylaw that would encompass everything.
Yeah, I just kind of like the way that was written, because then if you needed to add one, like currently that one from Spirit River, there is actually only one animal on that list, but just the ability then to expand, I guess, if we want to. I don't ever foresee us really expanding it, but you never know.
Okay, so the question before us today then is, do we want administration to bring forward a Foothills County wild boar bylaw for consideration? Is that the next step? Okay. And then, of course, details of what that might look like. Go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, I think if I remember our discussion from the previous meeting, the idea was to actually prohibit wild boar from being established in the county. Because we don't have any wild boar that we know of today. And better to put a bylaw out there that prohibits the introduction of these even on a farm basis.
Okay, Mr. Nelson.
So do you need a motion then to that effect?
Yeah, I think the motion would be along the lines of direct administration to bring back a Foothills County bylaw for consideration.
Okay, I'd love to make that motion. I think we,
Okay.
at the ASB conference, they did a really good presentation on the wild boar problem throughout North America, and it's a real problem. And if we're not having, like Mr. Anderson said, we can be proactive here because, yeah, I mean, they're coming no matter what. So if we can defend as well as we can, it's a good idea.
Go ahead, Deputy Waldorf.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. Through the chair to the floor. Establishing a bylaw is a pretty serious step. And I'm wondering, like the comments about the prohibited animals, might that be a consideration? That way, maybe there's only one on it, but again, in the future, the bylaw is set and then adding something to it might be more efficient than if some other creature comes out. So just an observation that maybe consider board direct administration to draft a prohibited animals bylaw for council's consideration. Thank you for indulging me.
You bet. Yeah, so wild boar bylaw or prohibited animals bylaw? Somewhat similar, but different as well.
Go ahead. I would go.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I also agree that the Spirit River bylaw is very comprehensive. And by having prohibited animals, it really is more efficient. We could add other pests that we know of at some point in time. But wild boar is obviously the target today. But a prohibited animal bylaw would cover us. Like that route, I guess, of drafting a bylaw.
Okay, so Mr. Nelson, you're the mover of the motion.
Yep, I think like Mr. Anderson said, and Mr. Wildorf, yeah, if we can have one that we need to add on to later, then that makes more sense than the singular bylaw just for all boars.
Okay.
So that sounds good to me.
Okay. Okay, so we have that motion from Mr. Nelson. And just to I guess to touch base on procedure, so that would come back to us at our next ASB for consideration. And then if we're satisfied with it, then we would recommend it to council.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Councilor McHugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just quickly, through the chair to Manager Reva Cambrian, when we design this bylaw, do we have to be careful? I'm just looking for a little bit of flexibility on the removal side. Like I'm not, I don't want to diminish the importance of what we need to accomplish here, but you know, we are infringing on individuals, telling them what they can and cannot produce. But just anything that we would need to highlight in this bylaw in order to remove an animal if conditions change.
Go ahead.
Well, of course, the wording of the bylaw is always tricky. And then sometimes what we think the bylaw means or how it's worded and how a court might see it are two different things. So, in the end, it'd be good to check with the other municipalities as to whether they used, legal to draft their bylaws or whether they were just done internally. So plagiarism is rampant in municipal government because, we don't like to pay lawyers too much. No, we don't like to pay them at all, but we got no choice. So, or we have no choice, sorry. So yes, we will have to, do a little more research on that idea. In the extreme case of actually ending up on someone's property to remove an animal, there will be lots of hoops to go through. So the bylaw will have to be worded properly. If that became necessary, you would hope we never get there.
Okay. So we have that motion from Mr. Nelson. Don't see any other hands going up. All in favor? Motion carries. Look forward to seeing that next time around. Item number 9, demonstration plots at the ASB farm, page 36. Mr. Cornelson, take it away.
Okay, so I guess here, just looking for a bit of direction. So what I've done so far, I made that cute little map there and kind of put a possible area for the demonstration plot. I talked to Foothills Forage and Grazing Association about what they thought we should grow there. And they are meeting on March 12th, I think, where so Laura has, I've talked to the manager there, Laura, has said I could come in and I'd have 15 minutes, I could talk about it, whatever. And then they would discuss it as to what, they would give some ideas or what they thought I should grow there. So I thought that was a pretty good, I'm not sure that the board is, could give some pretty good advice here. And then I also reached out to Farming Smarter, which is a research and development association out of close to Lethbridge. And so they've done this before. I guess we're in their catchment area as far as their map goes. And they have done this type of stuff where they've actually come out to different counties and planted stuff with their equipment and taken care of the plots because they would have all the, the sprayer and the combine and all that stuff. So they're currently looking at it. Assuming if they would come and do work here, they would want to get paid for it though. So I guess that's part of the questions I have is like, is there a budget for this? And because I looked at the cedar we have, like that John Deere cedar, which is across the road. It hasn't been used in a while. Probably could get it running again. But I'm just not sure, it's if how much it would take to get it going. I guess the last time they used it, some of the spinners weren't working or the discs weren't working, so there would be some bearings that would probably have to be replaced. And the hoses is kind of, some of them are cracked or missing, and then those, I'm not even sure what they're called, but those plastic where the hoses connect to, and then they go down like those plastic junction points, or some of them are cracked and wrecked, and so they look like they're taped together with duct tape. And so I'm not exactly sure how well that would work, but probably could get it running again. But then, yeah, there's just a couple of questions there. I wasn't sure, what's our, maybe you could just answer that, like who's our, like what are we trying to say show, and who's our audience? Yeah, just that, if we go to the effort of putting this together, that, that people would actually take interest, or is that not really, or is this something like we want to put this up and, if nobody really comes to look at it this year, it's not a big deal, but this is something we want to grow for other years, that we're doing more relevant plot research there. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not sure if we can answer those questions today. Even like, so if Farming Smarter, if they want to, come and do some work there, how much would we pay them? I don't know, things like that.
Okay, Councillor Alger, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. A couple of things. I think we could also do some soil conditioning type experiments. RD, what's Otto's company called? Egg Solutions or something?
Earth Smart, or I think these renamed it 360.
Yeah. So like some, do some stuff with some humate and stuff. And my second point is the brilliant seeder that we have, for you current farmers, what's the restrictions on seed varieties that our brilliant seeder could run? Like, can you sow barley with it, or it's too big, more grassy?
I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think barley would be too big for really.
Okay. I'm just looking at, like, you're talking canola here. Would it do canola?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's an option for the plots. Thanks.
Go ahead, Councillor McHugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, I'll just be a little bit blunt. Get the seeder in the shop and get the bearings fixed and get it fixed. That would be my opinion. You got a real nice shop there. There's a lot of rabbit holes to go down here. I like the idea of partnering with Foothills Forage and Grazing. I don't want this to be completely onerous. I just would like to see this kind of get started. I think there's an opportunity to do some soil sampling here. One of the aspects that we want to look at, in my opinion, is the ability to move nutrients up and down in the soil profile with different varieties. A part of this being a demonstration plot in Foothills is so that we could actually give concrete answers have an example of what will and will not grow. Like, there's just so many different varieties and plots out there. But I think we can do this in conjunction with partners, mostly Foothills Grazing, because they ask us for money. So I think we should get something in exchange. I think this can serve crop producers as well as livestock producers. I know Mr. Rowland has experience with this. Like, we could each give you our blends of suggestion, and maybe I've gone down the rabbit hole too far with that already. Specifically for myself, I would like to figure out if I can grow a radish blend after peas and see if there's enough time in the fall to get them roots down and pull nutrients from a lower level up to the seed level. That's specifically what I'm looking for. And before I spend $10,000 on radishes, I'd like to know if it works. So if we had a small demonstration plot on that with soil samples to prove that nutrients do move up and down, I think that'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Mr. Rowland, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Hate to always agree with RD here, but he's right on the money. As far as the drill goes, fix it. Give it to some farmer. They got a shop, they're bored right now. Let them fix it. I don't care. But it's not doing any good in the back 40. As far as the plots go, we need to figure out some sort of gap analysis. Councillor McHugh identified one. I've never done radishes behind peas. I have done radishes with peas. So, yeah, let's think way outside the box and find some stuff that'll work in our county. As far as canola plots go, I can drive you around to several big mainstream companies that are doing that already. So I don't think we need to replicate other things that are nearby, but there's certainly and Foothills Forage could help you with this, but there's certainly lots of varieties of feeds and forages that we should be trying out.
Okay, Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Couple of comments, I guess. When I saw the map, I was kind of disappointed to see we only have 50 feet by 50 feet, because I don't think you can do much on that small an area of land. And I guess, you know, you can forget about taking yields or anything like that, because you're not going to be able to replicate your trial a number of times to get any statistical validity out of a yield situation. I've had, as Mr. Rowland pointed out, I've had canola companies come and put demonstration plots on my land before, and they use literally acres of land to get it to the point where they can get enough replicated samples, even on a demo, to do any kind of valid yield testing. I think 50 feet by 50 feet, though, is a start. We need to get our foot in the water here as soon as we can. As far as farming smarter goes, they're a first-class research and demo organization. But if we're only doing 50 feet by 50 feet, I think that's something that we could try and tackle on our own. Again, you're not going to do any yield. I don't believe that's going to show any benefits. So it's a matter of, like RD said, is it going to grow or isn't it going to grow, and how well? And people will feel more comfortable if they see it firsthand on a local basis versus reading about it online or looking at plots from other areas. So yeah, those are my comments.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Nelson, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I've spoken with a couple board members from Foothills Forage just from running into them, and they were definitely open to it. And I think you can have that same interaction. But the one issue that came up was their fear about not having the equipment. And, you know, I can agree with, if we can get that cedar running again, that'd be great. We've got lots of farmers in the community. I have equipment. I mean, I'm happy to bring a disc line up, or, you know, if we get to a point where something's growing and we need to do some work. I mean, there's a lot of people in the community that can help on the equipment side of things. So I think we can solve those problems as they come along. If we need some sort of timeline of how we would do that, I mean, I'm happy to help in any way we can, or I can. And yeah, I agree. 50 feet is not maybe ideal, but it is a start. And yeah, I think it's more than achievable to try and move forward with this. And I hope, I mean, if you can go to Foothills Forage, I think they would be open to this. So there's lots of people in the community that would be willing to help. I mean, even some of these elevators that we have around, I mean, they all have you know, soil test type stuff. We can do all that kind of equipment. I'm sure we can find it. So.
Okay. I guess for me, one of the things I might add, we've had some pretty hot and dry summers the last few years. Last year was a bit of an exception, I guess, and then we had a lot of rain to start with, and the grass really came, and then July came and everything just kind of burned up. But one thing that does not grow around here very much, because people don't plant it, is warm season grasses. And I think on years like we've had the last few years, that those warm season grasses have a significant benefit and might be of interest to people to see what could be growing, what it would look like. I tried a number of warm season grasses about 7 or 8 years ago, and the one that has stuck with me is teff grass. And every time I mention that, everybody's like, what? Everybody's always asking, what is that? And yet it's a grass that I have grown to love. And I think it just would be of benefit for people to see some of these teff or the millets or sorghum Sudan, corn is grown for grazing around here by a few people. But if it was in a plot type thing where people could come in and actually see it and touch it and feel it, might be of interest as well. So that's just my thoughts on what could be. So, Municipal Manager Reva Cameron, go ahead.
And no laughing with what I say, but you know, from a budget perspective, of course, it's manageable within the Public Works budget to find room for this kind of. I'm not expecting a large expense, but it is possible. The other one I mentioned, and maybe this wouldn't come into play, but we also have the possibility of watering this area if we wanted to. We do have 2 ponds just to the northwest, and the county does have irrigation pipe and pumps. So it would be possible if that was something that was desirable as well to sort of expand on the different items that you might want to grow there. I'm not saying we would do that, but certainly we have the license for it. We've got, I think, 4 acre-feet there, if I remember, on those ponds. So looks like that would manage that quite easily.
Okay, Councillor McHugh, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to the chair. So just great comments on where this can go. So I don't want this to be overwhelming. Just quickly on trials, I found that very interesting. I was doing a canola trial with some biology, and the ask was that I actually only combined 75 feet of each sample, which I found surprising. I thought, well, geez, I think you'd have to go a half a mile. But no, the recommendation came back for a 75-foot swath side by side. And I think that's the more important thing, is that just our trials are replicated and they're side by side. I don't want to make this onerous. I just want to thank our ASB manager for showing an effort to get this started this spring. And whatever we accomplish, I think that we're definitely hearing that there's desire and interest to grow this going forwards. So there's just so many people we could partner with. All these seed companies would come running and supply seed, and all they would want to do is put up their demo sign. So it's pretty limitless where we could take this. But Nutrients is right here as well. They'd be big sponsors. Earth Smart out of Okotoks would be a sponsor. RA West out of Vulcan would be hands over fist to help with this. So I think this could be very low cost. Great suggestions from Manager Reva Cambrian as to what we could grow this into, highlighting potential differences with dry land versus irrigation. Possibilities are just endless here. So I'm just really happy with this direction and don't want to overwhelm. And just say thank you, and hopefully we can get this started on a minimal basis this year. And I guess I would just go back to the manager and make sure that he did get the information he needs here. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Cornelson, lots of conversation. So you have that meeting with FFGA in a month. Have you got some direction forward now?
Yeah, I think so. I'm kind of, I guess the biggest question I want to know is like, is this like, you know, this isn't just 1 year. This is more like, so this is the start of something. So it doesn't really matter necessarily as much as, you know, like say numbers or how many people are looking at it this year, but this is something that we want to carry forward from year to year. And eventually the idea would be that, you know, we'd have lots of people coming to take a look at what we're doing there. And yeah.
Yep. And, oh, go ahead, Councillor Alger.
This is leading right again back into my soil conditioning comments. Mr. Reva Cameron, was this land part of the gravel pit back in the day? So this is not reclaimed land that might have 3 inches of topsoil on it?
That's why I'm not fighting with this proposal, because we didn't find any gravel. You know, I mean, the gravel was on the other side.
Yep.
And so this is not mineable. I mean, it is not the best soil for carrying moisture, but it's not bad. It's had some pretty good hay crops over the years, but no, the gravel isn't there isn't the gravel underneath it to mine.
Yeah, no, I was just making sure it just wasn't reclaimed and.
No,
you know,
no, it
sprinkle a
wasn't.
little dirt
No.
on top and get a reclamation certificate. Okay,
Yep.
so we got a quality product to start with. That's a good thing.
Good. And being that it's in perennial grasses right now, probably the first step will be to get on there in the spring and terminate the grass. Okay. So we'll leave that with you and look forward to the next steps coming forward and what this can be long term.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman,
So,
just one more comment.
Oh, go ahead, Councillor McHugh.
Just something that's coming to the forefront. You've addressed it with warm season grasses, but ultra early seeding is another thing that's really a hot topic now. Just so many windows of opportunities for our ISB to showcase some things here. So I'll just end the rabbit hole there. Thanks.
Okay. Ultra early seeding in this neck of the woods would be early April.
Well, the conversation is actually as soon as the soil is at 0 degrees, start seeding. That's specifically, the research has been done on hard red wheat, but I think that's applicable to peas as well. And that kind of carries me on into my radish conversation, because if you get done ultra early seeding and you're combined by August 15th, then there should be a window to get a cover crop in there for the fall and photosynthesis and sunlight and
Okay, thank you. So I think we can wrap this up with just a motion to acknowledge the conversation around the demonstration plots. Who wants to give me a Councillor Alger gives me that. All in favor? Motion carries. Let's take a 10-minute bio break. So let's come back at 10:20. I'm sorry, I didn't have my mic on. On to page 40, yard grader. Item number 10. So we've talked about this a couple of times, possibility of getting a yard grader as a rental piece. So Mr. Cornelson, you've got a couple of prices here and a couple of different options.
Yeah, so like the first two are kind of the same, I guess. The top two. One is built in Lethbridge and one's coming from the States. So maybe we know which one we're going to order there if we're going to pick between those two. But they both are like, they're both 8 feet. And you know, they have tilt and up and down. So to grade somebody's driveway. So then, you know, thinking of it as a rental thing, I mean, then they come pick up with their pickup, bring it home and hook it up to their tractor and level their yard. And the third one is something that you put on a pickup and you can grade your yard, you know, so they would come pick it up with their truck and then they could actually go back to the yard. And so that one doesn't have this is a little different though. That's not a tilt. That just looks like kind of more like a harrows or something like that. But you know, if you talk to the salesman who sells those things, he says they work great. He had sold a lot to oil field companies making roads and stuff. And so he would be, you know, those roads would get kind of rutted up and wrecked. And then he said instead of what they start to do is buy those graders for the operators, they would go and they would use them to make the road better. So they didn't need to use call in a grader so often to fix up the road. So if I guess if the long-term plan is just, you know, for people to rent those and, you know, kind of level their yard out from corner to corner, you know, that might be a good option. Or if you're actually looking for people to mold and crown roads, maybe those other ones would be better. But I'm not sure. So anyway, I kind of got those two options there, and you got the prices there. You know, those aren't. I never got a quote. Those are just what they told me over the phone what they'd be about. So you know, those are about what they would cost, and yeah. So now I guess just looking forward, if we want to go ahead and actually purchase one, I suppose that would be for next year. I don't know how that works in the budget, but
There's nothing in the budget for this year.
no, there. I don't think so. It'd be a next year thing, right? Yeah.
Okay.
So whether to go ahead and like maybe what do you guys think? Like which one looks the best to rent out?
Go ahead, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you. So the first two, you have to pull them with a tractor.
Yeah, they're run with hydraulics. Yeah.
I don't have a truck from Moose Jaw. Do you have to have a truck from Moose Jaw to pull the other one?
What was that?
No, it just says can be used with a truck from Moose Jaw. I thought I had to get a truck specifically from Moose Jaw.
It doesn't have to be from Moose Jaw.
Sorry, that was just a little bit of levity there.
It's got to be a Ford.
I mean, I like the idea of the third option just because it's more accessible for people in the area to go and get it. If otherwise you would, I guess, presumably have to deliver it. Can you pull the first two with a truck to get it somewhere? And then
Yeah, I think so. That was yeah. So I was kind of looking for the so they could be blocked up and they could be pulled with the truck. Yeah, I think they could. Yeah.
Councillor Alger, go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I kind of agree with Mr. Nelson. I think when we originally started this conversation, it was more for the country residential type people and not everybody on an acreage has a tractor. So having one that's full type with a truck would be more advantageous.
Okay, so if we want to do this, I guess we'd be looking to add this to the budget for next year. I see Swim Manager Eva Cameron's hand go up, so we'll go over there.
Yeah, so at this point in time, council has approved a budget, preliminary operating budget, capital budget, and the budget will be coming back probably into March for finalization. Piece of rental equipment has some revenue attached to it. So it is possible. I mean, the board could recommend that we try to fit it into this year's budget, ask council to do that. The items on our capital budget for Public Works have been coming in well under budget so far. So I guess I would just suggest there may be room for this if the board thought it was something that they wish to recommend to council to proceed with this year.
Okay, and at a price tag of $10,000, that may have been saved on one greater purchase or things like that, eh? Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Nelson.
Sorry, what would be the rental cost to rent? Would it be daily? I guess it would have to be. Would there be a way we could figure out a kind of a return on investment?
I'm not sure. I mean, to come up with a number, I would have to, there might be other counties that rent out similar items. And even this, the salesman that was selling it to me, he might have some idea there too. I'm not sure of what we should rent it out because they actually might rent them out to people too, like the place I was going to buy it from. So I think we
Okay.
could come up with a number. And what would we want to make money, or would we want to? Shouldn't put it that way. Would it be more of a service over a revenue? Probably.
Okay, Mr. Stumpf, go ahead.
Thank you. Have you done any research on find out how the maintenance and availability for parts and that would be on these?
So the dealer is in Saskatchewan, and they do carry parts. The unit is made somewhere in the US. So I'm assuming like the simple stuff. Although with a unit like that, you'd almost think that I don't know how many parts there would be. Maybe our guys could just fix that. I don't know.
Yeah, I just wonder if there's any reviews for how they kind of kept up for maintenance or durability.
Yeah, once again, I've only talked to the salesman, and he's pretty happy about it. But I'm sure actually, if you look at online, there's probably some company sponsored, people talking about it. But yeah, that's something I could look into a little bit too. I mean, he seemed to think things are built pretty sturdy, and I wonder how hard it would be to find out, like get somebody from one of those oil field companies to tell us actually how it works. I don't know. It probably wouldn't be that hard.
Mr. Rowland, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just, we're an ag service board, so, we don't need to make a pile of money. We need cost recovery for sure. But you want it to get utilized and you want your driveways in your county looking good. It's an asset to the community. And I think we need to keep that in mind about what we do.
Mr. Anderson, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to say that we had a similar kind of discussion with the Brilliant Cedar here, and we kind of landed on $200 per day. And I think, if I was upgrading my driveway or whatever, $200 would be a fair rental rate for this type of leveler that we've got in the third situation here. So I'll just make that suggestion.
Okay, Mr. Nelson, go ahead.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, at $200 a day, your ROI is 50 rentals. And even if you just built that in as a replacement plan to, and if you're worried about fixing things and stuff, I mean, you could theoretically be turning one over every 3 years. So I don't think $200 is onerous at all to have for a day. Get a lot of work done. Especially if it's the truck pull one, then it's what anyone can use it. And then hopefully you guys wouldn't be having to deliver and do all that kind of stuff. You just pick it up and bring it back. So.
Okay, so our options, I guess, would be to recommend this in next year's budget or to recommend to council if there's room in this year's budget to add this in. So what would be people's preference if there's money saved in this year's budget to get on with it? I'm seeing some head nods. Okay. And the preference would be the, I'm gathering the third one with the truck from Moose Jaw. Okay. It took me a little while to figure your joke, but then when I read it, I
didn't get it.
Okay, so I guess I would just look for a motion then to recommend to council to include the purchase of a grader if there is room in, if there's savings in the 2025 budget. Does that make sense? Okay, Mr. Anderson,
My mic is still on, so I'll give you that
can you give
motion.
me that motion? Okay. No further questions? All in favor? Motion carries. On to the next ASB scholarship discussion. So Mr. Anderson, thank you for getting this on our agenda for today. Why don't you take it away?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to bring this back to our board's attention for some discussion about our scholarships. And what got me thinking about it was I read the Agriculture and or Department of Agriculture and Irrigation's newsletter comes on my inbox every Monday, Agri News or whatever it's called. And that's where I saw the Foothills Grazing Association 2025 bursary application. I also saw there that the County of Stettler has a scholarship that they were promoting in that particular newsletter. Theirs was for $1,000 and it's only one scholarship. And got me to thinking, well, gosh, we have $5,000 and we've divided into two to get two $2,500 scholarships. Got me thinking about, is that the right value level, first of all? And I wanted to have a discussion with the group here about this before we go into the next cycle ourselves of have we got the right amount of money to be giving $5,000? Should it be less? Should it be more? I want to have that discussion. And I just noticed a couple of differences on these, the Foothills Forage one especially. I was kind of surprised that they have a scholarship because they're covering so many different municipalities here, and they've only got one bursary of $1,000. So to me, they're spreading it really thin. And here we've got $5,000 just for our own county. So got me to thinking about whether we've got the right levels. I don't know if anybody has any comments or questions.
Go ahead, Mr. Rowland.
Well, I have some experience in this on the James Hargrave Legacy Foundation. We have scholarships there. We have anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000 to disperse. And we decide how, in a board meeting, how, what the need is. And we've awarded it all to one person, and then we've split it into 4 people. And we've cut it off at 5,000 sometimes, and once it was only 2,500. But the point is, 2,500 to Bree might not be might be 5,000 to me. Some people have a greater need than others. So, but anything less than 2,500 doesn't actually do very much in education or in whatever the endeavor is. So let's not get it too small.
Go ahead, Mr. Nelson.
Generally, we get 4 to 6 applicants. It's kind of the average is what. if I remember correctly. Yeah, I would agree with Phil. I mean, anything less than 2,500 is pretty, and it would be hard. I don't know how you've talked about awarding more money to some and less to get into a discussion on someone's kind of finances would be tough to do, wouldn't it? Yeah, and trying to decide, okay, well, this person needs 3,000 versus 2,500 would be, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think, I mean, I've been pretty happy with it, and you've done such a great job in creating that metric for us. We even were able to hand it out last time without you here and make it happen. So, I mean, that's been a great help. That's just my thoughts.
Comment I'd make is that I know I went through this with my daughter and it's not like people only qualify for one scholarship. Usually people qualify for multiple. So my daughter, fortunately enough, had the marks to get 6 or 7 different scholarships from different places. So it more than covered her tuition for her whole degree. So let's keep that in mind too, that we're not the sole funder of people who get scholarships. And I guess the other comment I'd make is that we really need to get more than 4 to 6 people to apply, because I'm sure there's more people out there that could be applying if they were aware and knew about it. And that might give us a broader pool to really pick from. Again, when I see these kind of scholarships advertised on a provincial basis, even though they're for a local event, I wonder if we're doing everything we can to promote them and really get the word out the way we should be. Another comment.
Yeah, I think the last couple of years, the local 4-H clubs have really been pushing our scholarship, and I think that's where we have seen an increase in the number of people applying for it. Because it wasn't that many years ago where we were hard pressed to even have 2, I think. So.
Just a quick thing about the number, the $2,500 or whatever. Over my time with the Alberta Association of Agriculture Fieldmen, they will give each region $1,000 to give as a scholarship to a student. And so with the last county I was with, I want to say the last 5 years, they also then started to duplicate that. So they would also give $1,000 to a student from the county. And so as far as that goes, I mean, that's been that $1,000 for like the last 12, 13 years. And so to me, $2,500 seems like a pretty good amount for what, you know, I'm sure the price of school is increased quite a bit. So, but that's where that $1,000 I think you saw from Stettler comes from. I think a lot of counties have done that since, you know, the AAAF, they started giving this money out. And then so counties have said, well, let's do it also to just somebody from our county. But I don't know if that happened here, but that's the way it happened at the last county I was with, and some other ones that I know about.
Okay.
So just for clarification, just for clarification, that $1,000 came from where?
The Association of Alberta Agricultural Fieldmen.
And so do we get that $1,000 as well as a county here? Or do we have to
Well,
apply
so
for it?
yeah, so that would be a regional thing, and so that would be from, I don't know how many counties. There's like 15 counties. So then the provincial, like our regional, when we meet together with Ag Fieldmen, we would decide that I think it's in fall who to give it to. So then we will accept applications for that as well. So then essentially for Foothills County, like if it ever came to somebody here, then there's 3 scholarships that would go up. But yeah, that's true. Like, so there's that scholarship. Then we decided that I think it was in fall. And I forget who it went to, but it wasn't somebody from Foothills County. It was a different county.
So is that a separate application process where people have to apply for that specific regional scholarship?
Yeah, so
Okay.
they would typically apply to us. Like, I've seen it go both ways because you can go on our website, well, not our website, but the AAAF website and apply there, or you can go through the Ag Fuelman. But I think actually the website might say just go to your Ag Fuelman. So that's yet another level of what's the word? Just information that'd be nice to get out there somehow, and what's the best way.
Sorry
Right.
about that.
So
Yeah, so that's another scholarship that we should actually be promoting for people
Absolutely,
to
yeah.
apply to. Okay, well, yeah, good discussion. Thanks. I guess what I'm hearing is that we're pretty comfortable with the $2,500 level. If everybody's in agreement with that, which is good to know. Yeah, I think I just wanted to have the discussion so that we can see what some other people are doing and have some relativity of the monies we're giving away. Because at the end of the day, it still is taxpayer money that we're doling out.
Okay, and thanks for that conversation. Certainly appreciate it. You certainly bring up another piece to it as well. And I guess I would just mention, a few months ago, I received a email from a local high school where my kids attend, and it was a list of scholarships and bursaries that are available for students to be applying for, just in the broader community and all over the place. Our Foothills County ASB scholarship was not listed, so neither was, I paid attention, neither was the James Hargrave one or the AAAF one. So I think we certainly could do some work in terms of letting people know, as was mentioned by Mr. Anderson. So, and I don't know if there's a way that we could, start making a list of some of these other things and put out a post once or twice a year saying, here's a bunch of scholarships available to our local students. Okay. With that, Mr. Anderson, do you want to just give us a motion to acknowledge the conversation around our ASB scholarship? Or did you have something else in mind? That's it. Okay. Okay, we have that motion. All in favor? Motion carries. Foothills Forage and Grazing Association request for hall rental. Mr. Cornelson, I'm assuming this is you again?
yeah, so at the recent workshop in January 3rd that I presented at, it was at Memorial Hall just down the road here. And Foothills Forage Association had requested that we pay for the hall rental. And I think there had been discussion at some of our meetings about not providing direct financial assistance like so much, but then assisting with things like this. And so that request was made. And hall rental was about $850. It was a good workshop. I mean, you can probably still watch it. I'm sure if you want to go back and watch it. It's probably went viral because I was presenting. So, but yeah, so they just requested that, and depending, I think there's some further requests. I think there would be that one budget item where we're giving money from AISC into FFGA into the safety school one. I think there's like money there that we could use for this if that's what we want, or we maybe can find a different line item for that. But yeah,
Okay.
so just that's the request.
Okay, and thank you for presenting at that day regarding gophers and control methods. Certainly appreciated. So the request is for $850 to pay for the hall rental for that event sponsored, put on by the Foothills Forge and supported by a number of municipalities in the region. We have room in the budget under education for this sort of thing, correct? Getting the head nod, yes. Okay, so do we want to pay $850 for the hall rental? Go ahead, Councillor Alger.
Just wondering how many people attended the seminar.
It was there were about 50 people there and 50 people online.
And online people had to pay also? The fee?
I think so. Yeah, I think they all paid. I'm trying to remember now what it was. You know, is it on that poster? I think it's in the package. Does it say how much people? Yeah.
But so online would have had to pay that also. Yeah. Okay.
$10 for online.
So they made some pretty good money on that. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I guess there would have been some other expense they had. Like they would have had to pay for like I don't know what the lunch would. It was a good lunch. So there have been some other expenses there. Or even the person who was broadcasting it, I think they had somebody come in and you know, set the online stuff up for them too. So there would have been some expense there. But I think the speakers all would have been free. I guess. Yeah. I guess I could charge $850 to speak there, and then we.
Okay, so do we want to pay the hall rental out of our education budget?
Would this be in lieu of us? They're also, the next page is their request for $1,000. Is this instead of that? We give them hall rental, or is this
I believe that's in addition.
on top?
Yeah, that would be that'd be another ask. Yeah, so you have to think about that one while you're making this one, I guess. Like it doesn't have to be the whole amount either. It could be part of it, or you know, whatever we decide, right? But
Is there ever any discussion with the town? I mean, they own that building. They would be willing or able to waive that fee for education type stuff like that? Or is that getting too far down the gopher hole?
I don't know if they would have been an interesting option there, right? Because like this is something that you know, it's a service provided, so I don't know. Like over my time, like when I've held workshops, I don't think they've people ever really waived that fee before, but
Go ahead, Mr. Rowland.
Foothills Forage comes to us every year and we know it's coming because it's the next page. When we go to the next page and lump that in or not lump that into that, we've never actually given them what they've requested. And we're probably not going to today, but I suggest we kind of move on to that and kind of lump that in.
Lump it together. Okay. So let's have the conversation of the two together then. Just before we move on quickly, I just would perhaps make a note. If you're talking to them, there are other halls that are much cheaper that might be a better option down the road. I believe Kaylee charges $150 for the rental of the hall there. Meadowbank's $100. Yeah. So in Blackie, I'm not sure what they charge, but they're looking for use as well. So
yeah, I can make that suggestion. I think they do kind of toss the hall rentals around a bit, but yeah, that's interesting because that's more of the number I'm familiar with.
okay, so let's lump the next two together. So we have the request for the hall rental from FFGA, and we have the yearly request for, is it sponsorship or just funding request for FFGA? Historically, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we give $1,000 to FFGA, and they're asking 5,000. If I remember correctly, I believe a lot of the other municipalities that are part of their area sponsor them for, well, some of them I know sponsor for quite a bit more than what we do. So yeah, we have that request for $1,000 and $850 from FFGA before us today. Were you on?
No, I was just going to mention on the Memorial Center, the town, you know, they give instructions to the Memorial Center board, and they tell them they have to pay their way, and the board applies for a certain level of grant funding from the town, and so it's kind of independent from the town. They even, I mean, the hall would get a lot more use if it wasn't so expensive, really. It's a part of the problem, but that's just my opinion. But we've been down the road with the town before, so I would suggest that you're not likely to get a break on it.
Okay, Mr. Nelson, go ahead.
I guess it's always kind of comes up as to what our actual budget is. We have an education budget. Is that 1,000 that we normally give to Foothills, is that within the education budget or is that separate? I can't remember if that was a different line item on the budget itself. I guess if anyone can give clarification on what kind of money we're working with, because we generally get asks for on the education side from the one group that does in-school training. Yeah, just if I can get clarification on what our actual budget is.
There's two parts, and to that, one is council has basically, we'll call it frozen donations, and indicated, we're not taking on any more new groups. And the other is that they've held the line with what we've done in the past. So in this case, if you were to say recommend 5,000 for an example, you certainly wouldn't have any budget left for anybody else. So the way the budget was done up for this year is with the $1,000 in mind, not the additional amount. And that doesn't mean, like I mentioned, with the road grader. I mean, you could recommend to council to alter the budget so that you would have more. But I would suggest at this time, your budget-wise, what was given last year is kind of where you're at for that one purpose. And I think that's now whether the board wanted to look at the rental of the hall, that's a little different. And because there are items in the budget that aren't, we'll say, called upon yet, you could make a little room, but from a donation point of view, if you were sort of following council's lead, it would be basically what you got last year is what you're going to get this year.
Go ahead, Mr. Rowland.
I have a suggestion. I take back my previous suggestion. Let's, if it's available out of the education budget, give $500 and do our $1,000 normal thing for a total of $1,500. However, it gets accounted for. That's for the accounting people.
Okay, is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay, so a motion to give FFGA $500 for the hall rental and $1,000 for their annual donation request. Okay. Any further comments? Go ahead.
Just that maybe that go with an explanation of what Mr. Weaver Cameron said, that our ability to dole out money is somewhat constricted too. That, I mean, it's not that we're not wanting to give more. I'm sure we'd love to be able to support them to their ask. But just the understanding that we're all trying to hold the purse strings a little bit.
Okay, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to suggest or say that I had $500 in mind as well for the hall rental. That sends a signal that they're overpaying for that facility and still gives them something to work with. So I'm fully in support of the motion.
Okay. Okay, we have that motion. All in favor? Motion carries. Just down the list of more requests, Farm Safety Center request for funding, page 58. So we have supported them in the past as well. There was a so typically we've given $1,000, I believe, as well to this one, and they're requesting 1406.86, and that is based upon the number of students. As I say that, I'm just trying to correct in my memory here. Did we give them a little bit more last year based on the number of students? I don't know.
They weren't in operation last year, so we didn't.
Okay, that was the question. Okay. But they are, go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
Okay, I was just, from my recollection, they couldn't substantiate that they were going to be in. Yeah, they hadn't received their other grants, so they said, well, give us the money and we'll see. And then we said, well, no, until you can substantiate that you're going to be operating, we're going to withhold the money, and that's what we did. So they didn't get anything from us last year because I don't believe they operated last year.
Okay. Councillor Alger, go ahead.
So just looking at the background in our staff report, so that's incorrect. It said 2024, we approved 2,800, but we didn't give it. Is that what I'm getting? Okay.
And then the 1406, I was wrong in what I had said there. It's actually, what they're saying here is 1406 is based on the average of our past contributions since 2016. So I'm confused where that,
Averaging other counties in.
okay, so where do we want to go with this, I guess, is the question at the end of the day. Mr. Nelson.
Is there a guarantee they are going to operate like this? They are
I
fully,
think
they are going to go. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, other than that.
Okay, so what do we want to give? $1,000, 1406.86, or some other number? Open to a motion of anybody feels so inclined. Go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
I'll give you the motion to donate $1,000 to the Heartland Training and Support Hub.
Okay, anybody else? All in favor? Motion carries. Okay, final one, Alberta Invasive Species Council, request for funding. So we have in the background a suggestion of $1,000 or whatever else we would determine appropriate. I guess just a question, Mr. Cornelson. So this group, they do come around and do some speaking at events. I was at the MD at Willow Creek Egg Service Board Christmas supper or whatever that was just before Christmas last year. And the Alberta Invasive Species came and did a presentation, and it was absolutely wonderful. And they gave some examples of some work they have done in Foothills County regarding invasive species. And I felt like it was something that was really good for our residents to be hearing about, and any opportunity I guess we can have where this organization come and share with our residents would be great. They are coming to Pritis or something in a couple of months, are they not? Can you correct my memory?
Yeah, so Megan Evans is going to come to the Pritis one in April. And so, I don't know, for those of you at the Ag Service Board, she was the manager, CEO, whatever, of this organization. She was speaking about bees at the ASB conference, and just a really great person, really great leader. She secured a bunch of federal and provincial funding to promote or to educate Alberta on invasive species. So just doing an excellent job. Very common. I wish I had the number in front of me, but very common for counties to sponsor that, because we kind of use that somewhat in our Ag Service Board grant, that we say, yeah, we support these guys, because then we can kind of almost say that we're doing whatever they're doing in a way. So it's very useful to what we're doing, and and they're doing a great work for Alberta as far as I'm concerned. And the staff, I didn't ever really know the staff before Megan kind of took over there, but yeah, just really passionate and really excited about, you can see that in her presentation, right? That she's real excited about this sort of thing. And yeah. Great
Okay.
organization, yeah.
Yeah, and I learned about frogs catching a ride on bedding out plants that don't belong in Alberta. So when I look at the chart on page 63, so this is what you get with different sponsorships. I guess the very last line there talks about presentations that they do tailored to your audience, delivered in person, and you have to provide a $10,000 sponsorship before you get that free. So I guess my question is, are we paying them to come to British?
No, she's coming free of charge, I guess. Just
Okay.
maybe hoping that we continue sponsorship. I don't know, but she is. She's indicated she wouldn't charge us for that.
Excellent. Okay. Okay, so we have the request. Go ahead, Mr. Nelson.
So I think we've generally given 1,000 in the past, have we not? And so by my quick math, we've spent 2,500 today on the other, so we have $2,500 left. So I mean, I would make the motion to be a bronze partner at $1,000, and then that leaves us with $1,500 for the rest of 2025.
Okay. We have that motion. Any further? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries. Okay. That leads us to closed session ASB Conference County of Northern Lights letter discussion. So we just look for a motion to go into closed session. Mr. Rowland gives us that. All in favor? Motion carries. Welcome back to our ASB meeting for February 13th, 2025. One motion coming out of closed session regarding our discussion of the letter from the County of Northern Lights. Mr. Nelson, you got a motion for us?
Sure. You want me to actually articulate what I would make a motion that the ASB board write a letter to be sent to the
Provincial Committee.
provincial committee board regarding how the resolution sessions are managed, and to possibly add breakout sessions to allow for communication before things actually come to the resolution. Just in the goal of creating some more efficient resolution sessions and keeping
Okay.
clarity. So it clears.
Perfect. You bet. Okay, no further questions. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving right along. So we have just information now. Letter regarding compound 1080 recall, letters regarding wild boar management, Bill C-293, and support for ag no. Was there anything in there specific anybody had questions or comments about? Otherwise, we could just look to acknowledge all of the letters of correspondence received for information. Anybody give me that motion, Mr. Roland, to receive for information the letters of correspondence? All in favor? Motion carries. Additions, no additions to the agenda today. So our next meeting date is scheduled for May 8 at 9 a.m. I trust that will all work for everybody. And with that, looking for a motion to adjourn. Mr. Stumpf gives us that. All in favor? Motion carries. We are adjourned.